This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, July 29th, 2026. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a positive and productive White House meeting as the war in Iran drags on. Tom Howell and Mike Glenn report Netanyahu described the meeting in a social media post as one of his best conversations with Trump. Trump has often characterized the war as an excursion and initially said it would last only a few weeks. 5 months later, the conflict remains unpopular among Americans, and the president has battled perceptions that Netanyahu talked him into a quagmire. It was Netanyahu's 8th meeting with Trump since his return to the White House, and their first since the war in Iran began. Former President Joe Biden is heard on newly released tapes telling a ghostwriter that he was in possession of classified material and was sharing it for his 2017 memoir. Susan Ferricchio reports the 70 hours of recordings released by the House Judiciary Committee this week show Biden acknowledging some of the material from his time in the Senate and as vice president was top secret. Biden read classified notes to writer Mark Zwanitzer for the book Promise Me, Dad, A Year of Hope, Hardship, and Purpose. He received an $8 million advance for the book, which was published a year after his 2 terms as vice president ended and while he was contemplating a presidential run. Congressional colleagues gathered in the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol to remember South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, the man who made them rethink positions and connect with each other. At a funeral service later at Washington National Cathedral, Stephen Dinan reports President Trump called Graham a true American original. His seat has been filled in the interim by his sister, Darlene, but colleagues said his presence in the chamber cannot be replaced. Graham died July 11th, ending more than 3 decades in Congress, including more than 20 as a senator from South Carolina. He was 71 years old. Documents released by a Senate committee show a Chinese military scientist covertly sent vials of a coronavirus to a Minnesota laboratory in 2018. Bill Gertz reports Yusin Zhao used a courier to ship the vials to University of Minnesota professor Li Fang in November 2018 for work that was funded by U.S. taxpayers and linked to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, according to a declassified Department of Homeland Security report. The 3 vials, wrapped in a paper towel and sealed with wax, were seized from the courier's carry-on bag at an airport in Detroit. The courier told Customs and Border Protection agents that Zhao was the sender, and the vials were turned over to the FBI. And finally, House Republicans are trying to improve their re-election prospects by branding Democrats as communists ahead of November's midterm elections. George Caldwell reports House Majority Leader Steve Scalise says primary upsets of establishment Democratic candidates this season demonstrate that House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has lost control of his party to communists. Socialism has made moderate gains in popularity in recent years, though Americans still overwhelmingly favor capitalism. A few Democrats warn a shift towards socialism could cost the party elections. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.